Hey, everybody, welcome back to the Post Frame Podcast. In this 4-part series, we're going to be covering why post frame construction is a smart choice for commercial buildings. So, benefit number 1, flexibility in design. So, Blair, what makes post frame construction more flexible than, like, say, stick frame?
That's a good place to start. They're both wood, right?
Yeah.
I think one of the biggest differences is especially when you start getting into bigger widths. Stick frame's going to need more load-bearing walls normally. Because if you think about the difference in that framing design, stick frame's generally going to be built out of more 2x4s, maybe some 2x6s, but the framing members are smaller. And that's because the spacing is different, right? In stick frame, your trusses are on normally 16-inch or 2-foot centers. So they don't need to be designed with as big of members, 2x12s, 2x10s, right? Which is what we design with normally. And your wall spacing is also going to be different. But because that whole setup of the design, the setup of that system is utilizing smaller members, as you start to get wider, typically you're going to need some sort of load-bearing wall inside the building versus only relying on the truss and the outside walls to carry the whole structure. That's a huge benefit of post frame. This is the biggest one we've built, and I think we probably have a video on this.
Yeah.
Right, is 114 wide.
114, yeah.
Right, clear span. It's a 2-ply, right? So two trusses essentially smushed together, right? So that they become one member. 114 wide, we can go without any sort of intermediate or interior walls being needed for
That's clear,
load bearing.
Clear across.
Clear span all the way. To get that or beyond, you're generally going to have to be steel frame. If you're going to want 120, 130, I'm not sure how wide steel would go until they would, they do get to a point where even a steel frame building needs some like maybe columns running down the middle of the building. They can't go unendingly in a clear span setup. So that's probably the biggest difference in design flexibility, right? When we talk about that for benefit 1, post frame versus traditional. But let's talk a little bit more about steel frame. There's still some more flexibility on the post frame side compared to steel, especially when you start thinking about finishing the inside. Right, because generally when you're going to fit it, like if you think about the room we're in now, there's insulation in these walls. There's some finish that needs to attach to the walls. And with a steel frame building, your members are farther apart. You remember how I said stick frame is really, really close together, 16 inches or 2 foot on center. Steel frame buildings, your columns are sometimes 20 to 25 feet apart. And then your framing members, let's say your exterior wall framing, might be 3 to 4 feet on center. And so you think about now coming inside and you're standing inside that structure, looking at that structural makeup. How are you now going to finish it, right? How are you going to put, you almost have to build an inside structure in order to finish it, right? To put what we have here, right, is some T111 or a OSB or drywall, or you're finishing an office space in a commercial warehouse building or whatever. Your interior build out becomes a lot more difficult. I say those are probably the two biggest things when we think about flexibility in design, is the clear span nature of post frame and how wide you can get without the interior need for structural support, and the dual benefit you get with flexibility of how you finish it out. That I think is really puts post frame in a really sweet spot compared to stick frame and compared to steel frame. They're different benefits, but they actually put post frame in a really good. We can go really wide, and we have a lot of flexibility how we finish that off.
Okay, that covered benefit number 1. Be sure to stay tuned for the next episode. We're going to cover benefit number 2, economical heating and cooling.